lunch, buddy. My ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 4th year of the award at the 8th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1935. Today's guest is the host of the Oscar Doesn't Go To podcast, Sam Meltzer. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Jackson. It's fantastic to be here.
Oh, it is fantastic to have you. Tell us, what is your familiarity with the Best Animated Short category?
Not familiar. I will say this, though. I went onto Ronaldo's list of the ranking, and I watched his number 1 and the last one on the list. So that's basically where I'm at with that.
Which two was that?
I don't remember what the first one was called, but it was really good. He's right in having it at first. And then his last one was the Day in New York, I think.
Sunday in New York, yes.
Yes, that one.
So
I just wanted to get a very broad idea of what the category had to offer.
Honestly, that is just a very good way to get into the category.
Yes.
If I remember his list correctly, I think his number 1 might be balance. So
yes, balance.
Yeah, so yeah, that is one of the best shorts. Is a good introduction. But anyway, let's get started with this year's shorts. This year has 3 nominees. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Three Orphan Kittens, directed by David Hand. This is the 6th nomination for Walt Disney and his 4th consecutive win, winning every year of the category thus far, including for last year's The Tortoise and the Hare. This is also the 4th consecutive nomination and win for the Silly Symphonies franchise. At this point, the Silly Symphonies had become a training ground and a sort of testing chamber for Disney animators. While their character films with Mickey Mouse and the like were focused on just giving good, fun stories featuring their bankable characters, the Silly Symphonies were where Disney tried to stretch the limits of their animation capabilities and innovate new techniques with a goal in mind of making a feature-length film. And 1935 specifically is when Disney really started getting to work on their eventual first feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But enough about that. Three Orphan Kittens is about, 3 orphaned kittens who sneak into a house and get into mischief. It's essentially what people had to resort to in 1930s, since there weren't cat videos on the internet back then. Sam, what did you think of our winner here?
Boring. This has no plot after the first minute. I like that I could understand the Spanish that the woman, I think, was speaking. I think she was probably the maid or the chef or some.
You watched the Spanish though.
Oh, no way. That's hilarious. Did not.
But it doesn't matter considering that.
No, I still understood. Yeah, I understood what she was saying. Yeah, this just a bunch of cats kind of doing random things for about 5 minutes. I will say this, though. The thing that I liked a lot about this was the animation of the tile floor on the kitchen. I thought there was a really nice depth to the reflection that you could see in the floor. That was a little detail that I really respected and admired. But other than that, not particularly interested in what this one had to offer.
Yeah, it is a very kind of light short. Like, it is just kind of watching cats do cat things for 8 minutes. However,
right.
I did find myself kind of enjoying it because it is kind of cute. It is just kind of
cute.
It's a cute short, and it's exactly what it was kind of meant to be.
No, it doesn't do anything like apparently awful, but it's just nothing I can grasp anything onto it. It's not really saying anything.
It's a very light, fun, and fancy-free kind of short. The only real thoughts about it I have outside of the that is kind of cute is that it's also kind of racist, which I don't know how you fit that into.
Yeah, that's when I learned that the woman was like, when I thought that the woman was speaking Spanish, I thought it was like putting this whole stereotype of like the Spanish maid. And now that you say that she wasn't, I'm curious how it was racist otherwise, because that was my preconceived notion of the movie.
So yeah, so the main thing is that the maid is like a clear mammy stereotype of the time, and it's just like, and like, well, like if you view it in like a vacuum, like let's say you've never heard of racism before, it just seems like, oh, she's just the maid of the house, but it just kind of plays into that same stereotype that we always see for these black servant characters. And then there's also just a random joke with like the cats get into the toy room and when the cat is playing with one of the dolls and like it starts out as like this white girl doll, and then the cat like hits it and it flips over, and it turns into a black doll, and it shouts mammy at the cat. It's just like, what? It's just like it's almost just funny like how they find any excuse to be racist at this time. And it's just like, and like I've seen these shorts before, I don't remember all these racist jokes, because like I was expecting that, like from my memory, I was expecting the 1930s were going to be a pretty like light time on the racism before we get to the 40s, which had the more outwardly racist shorts. But there's been too many of these in these 1930s episodes I've been doing, and like I'll just say this for the audience. It's like I'm recording this episode a bit after a lot of the other episodes that'll come later, or like this is the second to the last of the 1930s episodes I'm recording. And so it's just like I've seen nearly everything but of this decade. And it's just like there's so much random racism that I have to deal with in this. And I did not expect this, but you know, I have to get through it at some point if I'm going to do this entire every nominee and stuff. So
I assume some of these shorts were played before features at the cinema.
Oh yeah, that's how they work.
And I assume that white audiences were the people going to see the movies, so that was part of it. But at the same time, it's like, come on. And I mean, Walt Disney was a racist, so that isn't terribly surprising to me. But it's annoying.
Like it's not surprising, but it is just kind of, it's annoying that it's so rampant. And it's shorts where like this is just a short about 3 kittens in a house, and yet they still find a way to be racist during it. It's just mind-boggling. But you know, it's how it is. You just have to acknowledge it, deal with it, and move beyond it, learn from it, you know. And anything else to say about this very light short?
No, other than that, I'm very impressed with that animation of the kitchen tile floor.
Yeah.
Not really.
It is impressive animation. And like I said, the Silly Symphonies were meant to be a way to innovate on their animation techniques. And so like maybe that reflection in the tile was like the technique that they were innovating on in this short. And like when I was watching it, I was just thinking like oh, this is one of the Silly Symphonies where they really didn't do much of anything that was innovative. But you know, maybe I didn't notice the reflection, so maybe that was part of it. But anyway.
I also liked a note. I watched all of these movies without knowing who the winner was, so I purposely didn't look up the statistic of that so I could try and guess. I guessed incorrectly.
I assume you'll tell me which one you thought was the winner once we get to it.
Yes.
Okay, so our second nominee is The Calico Dragon, directed by Rudolph Ising. This is the first nomination for Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising, and the first nomination for their Happy Harmony series. Something I want to point out is the names of a lot of these series these animated shorts come from. Happy Harmonies, Color Rhapsody, Merry Melodies, which later became Looney Tunes. All of these studios were trying to make their own silly symphonies, but didn't have the box office returns to compete, at least in this decade. The Calico Dragon starts with a girl reading a fairy tale to her stuffed toys, but when she falls asleep, her toys come alive to go and defeat the dragon from her story. So I had remembered this short as being very boring, and it still kind of is, but I had more appreciation for it this time around. Like, first of all, I really enjoyed the color, the textures and the color palettes, because when the toys come in life, they go into this world where everything is made of all these fabrics, and it's somewhat garish, but also it's very visually interesting as well, because I enjoyed like seeing all like the dog that's made of this one fabric, and the spotted horse, and then the world around them is just all kind of quilted, I guess, where it's just patchwork of fabrics all around them. And I really appreciated that aspect to it. I just thought it was a very kind of like, it's a very light short, but I also enjoyed it in a way. Hey, but then again, it was also just a bit kind of a bit too cutesy. Like it was trying too hard to be kind of like the Disney kind of style of like a happy world where like things happen or whatever. What do you think, Sam?
So this was trash. This was
I love
so
your
boring.
reaction. You're just out front with it like, this is boring. This is trash.
It is. I didn't understand what the plot of the film was. What you described was kind of what I pictured, but it didn't really make sense. The first thing I did write down was that the horse stuffed animal was incredibly well designed and adorable. That was what kept my attention for the majority of the short film. I just think that, okay, this is also what I wrote. When we actually get to the dragon, you have this whole journey of all these like fabric looking trees and all these roads that look like a carpet. It's actually cool.
Mm-hmm.
But the version I watched was maybe a little too bright. I don't know if that's the way that it was intended to be, but it was very bright. The dragon is horrifying. It's so aggressive and breathy. And when it talked, I was like, geez, if I were a child, I would be haunted for weeks if I had seen this. That was extremely intimidating to sit through them singing their Calico Dragon song extensively. Yeah, that was very intense.
I'm honestly surprised you say that, because I thought the dragon was kind of like it didn't reach the expectations it had set up for it. I thought it was just kind of bland. Like I was just
I just didn't know what I was getting into at all with this one. So considering the tone of the rest of the film, I was surprised by the aggression that those dragons held. I mean, wow, they have been holding in those feelings for a long time.
But yeah, this. Like I see that you kind of hated this short, but I was pleasantly surprised by it, even though I still didn't think it was much of anything.
No, it wasn't anything. I also thought that the girl's voice was incredibly irritating. It was nails on a chalkboard, really.
That is a trend for this period, like especially when it comes to like children in the shorts. They have just some of the worst voices ever.
Really, they do. It's so awful.
I just like, did they just not care? Did they just not try? Did they just not have they just not put money into voicing children? Because it's always like a 40-year-old who's voicing them. So it's just like, they just don't know how to do good voices, I guess. Yeah, I
don't know. I to be fair though, the animation of that horse was a saving grace. It was very adorable.
You gotta love that horse.
It was so cute.
It was a cute horse. Yeah. Yeah. I also really like the main doll or whatever that comes to life and rides the horse.
Me too.
He was a very like a Raggedy and Andy kind of doll, and I like this style.
I like it too. It's unique in its presentation
Yeah.
of looking kind of like furniture. I thought
Yeah.
that was creative.
Yeah, this is all just like it's a very surprisingly well designed, I think, because
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, but overall, the story itself not that interesting, and
Horrible.
I think we can now move on to our third and final nominee, which is Who Killed Cock Robin, directed by David Hand. This is Walt Disney's seventh Oscar nomination and the third time he has been nominated against himself, while it is the fifth nomination for the Silly Symphonies franchise, and only the first time that the two Silly Symphony films have been nominated against one another. This film shows a trial for the murder of Cock Robin, who was shot with an arrow while visiting his girlfriend, Jenny Wren. Sam, what do you think of our final short?
So this was great in a way.
In a way.
I compared to the other two, this was Citizen Kane. So I think so. Look, this one immediately brought me in. The opening shot where you see Cock Robin kind of standing in the middle of the treehouse, and you see the background with the sun and the lamppost. This has an incredible depth to it. Immediately, there are a lot of layers to the styles of drawing and to the location at hand. This one is very expressive and actually has a plot to go along with. I think when we get to the actual trial itself, it drags on for a little too long, despite being an 8-minute short. But this is going to sound very obvious, but the cartoony feel of it in the expressiveness really works in its favor, because every single character in this is kind of a shtick, but it feels very funny and clever. And you have like these moments where like when the guy who they think is guilty, the witness and the people who are being charged, like when they're sort of convicting of something, they sort of like jump up and turn into a different color. Like that's clever stuff. Like this is what I picture when I think about Disney animated shorts. I think that like the actual assassination scene is really funny and like well thought out, like the whole falling and when everyone kind of poked their heads out of their windows with such a superstition. It's really well done and cute, and I think this is like by far the best of the three, if you couldn't tell. And then obviously I have to mention the horny as fuck bird played by Mae West, who is an icon in every way for playing that character.
I should clarify, it's not actually played by Mae West, it's just a Mae West caricature. But yes.
Oh, I read on, was it your review that I read that it was by Mae West? Because it might have been.
Like I was just making a joke because it's a clearly Mae West caricature, but it's like I was just making a joke that like this is the best Mae West movie, even though she's a bird.
Oh, I literally thought that she actually played a bird.
It's just a random voice actress doing a Mae West impression.
Iconic.
She's great though.
Yes.
But yeah, I really agree with you. I think this is a really good short. I do think it kind of. So I remember really liking this. It did kind of drop off on a rewatch, but still, I just thought it was a first off, very well designed. Like I love the animation, all the different birds and whatever that are taking place in this trial and whatever. And like you said, the initial killing scene where he's like falling through and all the people poke their heads out the windows. But I think I remembered really liking the song from the trial, and coming back to it now, it's kind of boring. It's just kind of
a little too long.
Robin.
It's a little too repetitive.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot better if it had a bit more of an energy to it. Like watching it now, I thought it was a bit slow. Oh, and there's like a lot of like dead air in there. But it was like they had more of a beat, a rhythm, and like kept things moving very quickly. I think it would have been a lot more fun and a lot more engaging. But even as is, I still thought it was a lot of fun. And like the trial itself, it's just like it's making a kind of, I guess it is a satire in a sense of like the legal system. How it's like you have the cop just constantly beating on the witness while they're in the witness stand, and then it's just like before they figure out who actually killed Cock Robin, and they have the three witnesses who clearly didn't do it. You have the jury just rejoicing at the idea that they're all going to hang together. And it's just like what
it's ridiculous.
What a fucked up world these birds live in.
Yes, the commentary is immaculate, and the jury itself being the choir, and then like the judge being like the angry owl, and then of course, how could I forget, he comes back to life because the bird is so hot. Relatable, honestly.
Well, he was never dead. It's the thing.
To be fair, he rejuvenates after seeing the hot bird.
I think he was just in a coma, and it's like you see that the arrow, like it never even pierced him. He was just holding it under his arm, and so yeah, so for the audience, the big twist is that Cupid comes out and he says he's very flamboyant, first of all, like very limp-wristed, and he comes out and says that he's the one who shot Cock Robin, but it was like with the love arrow for Jenny Wren, and that's why he fell. He was literally falling for Jenny Wren, and then I guess he just kind of passed out after falling like 500 feet or something,
right?
And Jenny walks over to him like while he's like he's been passed out, like his corpse has been laid out for everyone in the middle of the courtroom, and then Jenny just walks over and like gives him a little, I think it was just like a little tickle under his chin. He immediately gets up, and then they kiss, and then it's over.
That's like me if I faint and I see a picture, someone like shows me Paul Newman or something, I just like immediately go up.
True. But yeah, this is a fun short.
It is. This is exactly what you picture when you think of like Disney short, like maybe a little repetitive, but the sound design and the way that the characters are styled and the story itself being simple, but having a fun little message to it and being cute and whimsical throughout. This is like exactly what it should be.
Yeah, this is just a good, solid short.
Exactly. And it easily should have won. This is the one I thought would win. Yeah. I also thought it would win because it had like by far the most views out of the three that in terms of the versions I watched. I was like, oh, okay, this one probably won. And I was shocked when I learned that it didn't. It was a Rosalind Russell Morning Becomes Electra level shock. But yeah, we can't all have nice things.
It is kind of weird because like 3 Orphan Kittens, like it was surprisingly hard to find like that short. Like the only upload I found of it, well, I eventually found it like in the English version on OK.ru, which is a great source for anyone who's watching old movies. But before that, I probably saw the version you saw. Was the only one I could find was the Spanish dub, which was on Dailymotion, and it's just like it'd been taken down off of all like YouTube and stuff, and it's just like it was weird. But yeah, Who Killed Cock Robin? That was just left up on YouTube, easy peasy. Yeah, and Calico Dragon, no one cares about that, so that was just on YouTube.
Because it sucks.
Oh, all right. So I think we're kind of done with Who Killed Cock Robin. So now that we've gone through and talked about all 3 nominees, let's rank them. Sam, start us off with your number 3.
So obviously my number 3 is the Calico Dragon. There's no question about that.
And also I want to say that with my rank, this is probably the closest that the nominees have been for me. Like I thought they were
interesting.
Like I know you kind of, from what your tone, I feel like you kind of have a clear 1, 2, and 3. But for me, like we were all very close. It's like I have my rank of all the nominees, and it's just like they're not that far apart. But my number 3 is still the Calico Dragon, even
obviously,
though I had plenty of
I
had plenty of kind words for it. But in the end, it is just kind of boring and just kind of standard for what you'd expect for a short at this time. And my number 2 is 3 Orphan Kittens, which is very, very cute. It's just a bunch of kittens running around, and for 8 minutes, it's like I feel like it doesn't really run that long for me. It's the perfect length for what it is, and it would be hell if it were any longer. But I liked it at the length it was. But
even then, I think it's still kind of overstated its welcome, despite being 8 minutes long.
Yeah. But it's still got some racism that makes it not that good to watch. And
Right.
Sam, you're number 2. I feel like I can predict it.
Yes, it is also 3 Orphan Kittens. I rank the winner in the middle of the pack. We have the same ranking on this.
Yeah, even though like you like is very disparate, but we still ended up the same. So we both have our number 1 as Who Killed Cock Robin, which is just
easily the best one.
It's just
for me.
Fun little short about murder. Attempted murder, or not even attempted murder, just presumed murder.
Right. Yeah, this one was good.
So before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Sam, or anything you'd like to promote?
Please do not watch the Calico Dragon. Please,
okay.
if anything you took away from listening to this, please do not watch it. Okay, I can't stop you from doing anything, and it's only 8 minutes, but I strongly suggest that you do not watch this animated short film.
Well, I'm gonna say, do watch Calico Dragon. Just for the hell of it. It's only 8 minutes. What do you got to lose? And look at the fun like designs of all the characters, how they're like quilted. It's
yeah,
fun.
maybe you can look at a picture to do that instead of watching the whole thing.
Just look at a few screen caps from the Calico Dragon.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sam, for coming on the show. Thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the Short Podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.